Hi, everyone. Thank you for coming. We know it's getting close to the end of the conference. People are flying out, but thank you again for coming. I'm Daniel Lee. I'm a program manager on the Windows Admin Center team. I'm here with Matt Wilson, senior dev lead on the Windows Admin Center team as well. And today we're here to talk about how you can develop your server infrastructure and server application management tools in Windows Admin Center. And Matt will be doing a great demo on how to build a container management tool as an extension in just under 10 minutes. So we hope you'll stick around. So in case you're not familiar with Windows Admin Center, you've probably seen and used many of these tools for managing or troubleshooting Windows and Windows Server in the past, right? These tools have been around for 10, some even 20 years or more, maybe. And a lot of them haven't been changed or updated in a long, long time. Well, we're changing that with Windows Admin Center. Windows Admin Center is a new management experience for Windows and Windows Server for IT admin scenarios. The UI runs on the browser. It's web-based, running on HTML5, built on HTML5 and Angular TypeScript. And then behind the scenes, we're running remote PowerShell or WMI to manage target servers. Right, so it runs in the browser, but it doesn't have any internet or internet or Azure dependency. It runs completely on-premise. So even if you're in a disconnected environment, you can run this on your Windows laptop or Windows Server 2016 to manage your Windows Server machines. Just to give you a sense of what Windows Admin Center looks like, this is the device manager in Windows Admin Center. This is the File Explorer, web browser-based. Virtual machines, we have a list of all the VMs. You can do almost everything you can do in Hyper-V Manager, but we also have a visualization for resource consumption across the host. And we even have a web-based PowerShell console for any automation script running that you have to do. We've just announced GA 4 weeks ago. We've been in technical preview for exactly a year as Project Honolulu. 4 weeks ago, we announced general availability, and since then, our deployment and installations have tripled. We're seeing 60,000 deployments and more, and almost 800,000 managed nodes being managed by Windows Admin Center currently. So, all great, but what does this mean for developers, right? From the very beginning, we knew that the Windows Server management ecosystem is huge, right? There's hardware, there's Windows Server, the OS, there's roles and features and applications and services on top of that. And if you look at the management lifecycle, there's monitoring, troubleshooting, management, much more. And we realized that what we provide in Windows Admin Center is just a small piece of this entire ecosystem. So our vision for Windows Admin Center was to make sure that we can build a platform that our developers and partners can leverage upon, and we can seamlessly integrate with the existing services and products. So why develop on Windows Admin Center, right? As I showed you in the previous screenshots, we have over 20 tools that we've already built. Since it's web UI based, it's much more easier to integrate with, and using deep links, you can jump from your products to Windows Admin Center, and from Windows Admin Center to your products or services. Sooner or later, when you start building your own tools, you're going to run into things like identity services. How do you integrate with Azure Active Directory? Multi-factor authentication, access control with role-based RBAC, right? And all these things, building them from scratch is a lot of work. So we provide these as platform capabilities that you can leverage upon. So instead of building these yourself, you can use the platform capabilities that Windows Admin Center provides and provide a consistent experience for your customers. Using the latest web technology, you can build upon HTML5, Angular, TypeScript. There are a lot of great UI libraries out there you can use, and we have over 20 controls that we've built specifically for Windows Admin Center that you can use to build grid controls, tree controls, and pretty much all you need for building IT admin management tools. And lastly, this is the fastest growing server management tool in Microsoft history. So becoming an extension gives your product and your services much more visibility to a broader customer base. All right, so hopefully you're still interested, and Matt will take it on from here to show demo how to build an extension in 10 minutes.
All right, guys. So we're going to build in a little bit more than 10 minutes a Windows Container Management extension for Windows Admin Center. It's a lot of Windows there. I actually recorded this because there are a couple of things that I wanted to fast forward through, like npm install. But also, it's terrifying to type in front of people, so I didn't want to have that in front of me. So one of the first things that you're going to do when you start building your extension is you're going to go out and clone our template repository that we have up on GitHub. This repository contains everything that you need to get up and running and plugged into Windows Admin Center. And you only need a couple of real quick steps to get up and going. The first one being, we're going to go ahead and rename our directory, because we don't want a million extension templates running out there. In this window, you can see that we're going to go ahead and call it MS Build Windows Containers. I'm going to talk fast through a lot of this stuff, but there's going to be a lot of things that everything's up on GitHub, so you can catch it afterwards. OK, so now we live in Visual Studio Code. If you built Angular before, this is looking really familiar to you. The first thing that I did, you don't necessarily have to do this first, but I added the PowerShell scripts that I'm going to use to interface with the Docker CLI. The very first one is going to be my get containers. And as you can see, this is just straight Docker CLI, containers list, and formatting back basically what I want into my data set that I can be parsed and thrown into my data table. The next script I'm going to be adding is just to start containers. And that's nothing but start, Docker run, and then pass in the name of the image that you want to run. And the final one is going to be our stop, so that we can just start and stop whatever we want to do here. All right. Oops, I got a little ahead of myself there. As you can see, this is just PowerShell taking in some parameters from the UI so that we can isolate which ones we want to call. Once we get that all saved up, the next thing we're going to do is start renaming the actual rename tokens inside of the template. We've scattered these around at vital points where that you need to change in order to customize this to be your extension. In this case, I do a global find for this exclamation point company name, and I start replacing it with Microsoft. It's really easy to go through here and just do a replace with all of this. And once I'm done, I'm just going to fast forward through the rest of these because we have several other tokens that need to be renamed there. There we go. As we get to the end, you can see we do things like product names, descriptions. But as the last one comes out here, we have now renamed everything that we need in order to start actually pulling in our npm directory or npm dependencies. I'm going to go back, save all of these so that everything's clear, and then come back down to my command line, clear the screen, and go ahead and do a quick npm install. And so this is going, if you want to see all of the dependencies that we pull in, it's things like Angular and TypeScript. But you can check out our package JSON to see what everything is. This is one of the vital things that I wanted to fast forward because this took a little bit to run through. So at the end of this, you're going to have everything essentially set up that you can just more or less run your extension inside of Windows Admin Center. I do a quick build. Gulp is our build harness. You can use Grunt if you feel so inclined, or any of the other ones. But the one that we've documented is Gulp. This is going to come back, and it's going to throw up an error that says that there's no Windows container module. This is logical. We haven't made it quite yet. So now that we're here, and we've pulled in all of our dependencies, we can go back into the command line and start adding what we need to do, what the components and modules from Angular that we need. For using the Angular CLI, I just could do an ng-generate, create my new module, which is going to be my Windows containers. Nothing tricky here so far. That pops up. And then the next thing I'm going to do is generate the components that I need, or the one component that I need for this, which is going to be ng-generate component Windows containers. You can see up in our Explorer that we have the Windows containers folder up there now. And we'll go ahead and pop that open here. And we have just one more step. Well, actually, we've got a couple more steps until we're able to run this. But we're going to add a Windows container routing TS file. And this, we use basically the Angular routing module to do all the routing within the application. And this is pretty much standard. Copy and paste in. We have a couple more rename tokens. Don't worry about this too much. This is all documented up on our docs file. It's /WAC docs if you want to see, and they'll walk you through this whole process. We also have these links at the end, so you don't have to worry about writing them down. So I've renamed the component and added in my Windows container component, and then I deleted the extra child components because we're just keeping this really light and simple for this first view here. All right. So once we're here, we're going to go ahead and save everything. And then we're going to come back here, take a look, and add, oh, there we go, cool. Pop down and do another gulp build. So this gulp build is actually going to succeed, but it does a couple more platform things for you. Inside of Windows Admin Center, we've built a bunch of helper functions to do things like automate the localization. So we use a strings res.json that you can put your strings into and then use a localization team to spawn those out to the 18 languages that we support. But more importantly, it actually indexes that scripts folder where I put the PowerShell scripts originally, and then creates a PowerShell scripts class that I can reference inside of my TypeScript throughout the rest of the application to simplify my bridging between Angular and PowerShell and the remote managed node. So I'm adding my service here, so we're isolating our PowerShell. There's a couple of things that I want to call out. That PowerShell scripts class is the reference down to the scripts folder that we were talking about earlier. And then we also have a PowerShell session that's not necessarily used. I just want to highlight it here. This is really important because a remote PowerShell session takes about 2 to 4 seconds to spin up. And to not hit performance issues, we want to reuse as many sessions as possible. Right off the bat, the first method I'm going to create is the start containers method. I'm going to require that the caller provide me the session that I should be executing this PowerShell script on. And then with the script, that I had the requirement of the image name that I was going to be using. Once we hit this point, I need to actually build up the command that I'm going to be executing through PowerShell. We have a couple more PowerShell helper, we have a couple more helper classes throughout the platform. One in particular is this PowerShell.create script. What it's going to do is it's going to take the script that we use in this PowerShell scripts.start container. That's a direct reference to the PowerShell script that we created, the get or start container.ps1. And then it's also going to take as an input the oops, sorry. Maybe I went too fast. Let me get back to that. Where was that? Sorry, guys. Yeah, we'll start from here. All right, so back here again. We're going to go ahead and create our command. And like I said, this is using some of the helper functions that are built inside of the platform. Specifically, in this case, the create script, which is going to use our PowerShell scripts class that I was telling you about earlier. And then it's going to call in or have a reference to the start container, which is the PowerShell script that I wrote in the original steps. Along with this, it's going to take as an additional input the arguments that I need to pass into that script. If there are no, it's optional. So if there's no parameters to the script, you just don't pass anything. But in this case, I'm passing just an object that has one property with the value name, and then the actual image name that's coming in on the method. After that, we're going to go ahead and call what is our app context service. And this is the service that actually is going to take the PowerShell script and the command that we just generated and drop it into our remote PowerShell session and tell it to run this command on the session that we provided. So once again, we're trying to reuse as many sessions as possible to make sure everything is as efficient. Now I'm going to fast forward through a bunch more stuff here because we don't actually need to see, if you understand how to make the PowerShell scripts here, you don't actually need to see how to do it 3 more times. But I am going to call out that there's 2 basic methods that we really use here. First is going to be the stop container, which is almost an exact copy of the start container, just changing around the script that we reference. And then the other one, which was up above, was the get container list. All that does is execute the PowerShell script, brings in the string response, parses it into the objects that I'm binding to my data table. OK, now we're on to our module. Now that we have our services and our dependencies ready to go, we actually have to tell Angular this is what we're going to be using now. I just copy and paste. The big things to see here is that our providers, I'm referencing the container services, container service that we just wrote, and I'm using a couple of the custom controls, but we're going to get to that in just a little bit here. In the container component, or the Windows container component, I blow by this because if you built Angular, it's pretty much what you're used to. It's just writing the TypeScript that drives your view. And then I'm going to go over to the HTML, and I'm going to pause here for just a second to kind of explain, because these are a little bit more of the platform things that we have going on. So you can kind of see a couple of things that are a little bit weird. We've got this SME action bar, and then an SME action button. And underneath that, we have the data table. So we've built a series of custom controls that you guys can use in your implementation so that you don't have to do things like, how am I going to render these things in a data table? And we've put a lot of effort into streamlining and making these things super efficient and super useful with filtering, sorting, and the customization of the columns, as well as the action bar is actually a control that we've built that stretches the way, however long you give it, and it will automatically expand and contract and add and hide buttons as you have the room for them. All right, and then once we get through this, we're actually at the point where we can now come in and build our extension. I'm going to do this one last time, and this is going through making sure that I have everything ready to go, cleaning it up, fast forward through it all because we don't need to see another build process again. And then the last step in Visual Studio Code is what we call the gulp serve. And this is where we're actually taking and packaging the extension that we just wrote, and we're going to host it on port 4200. That's totally customizable. It can be whatever you want. I just choose 4200 because why not? And then I've also configured my Windows Admin Center to listen on port 4200 for external extensions. Now, Windows Admin Center, when it does fire up and sees that there's something on port 4200, it will actually go pull that manifest and extension and sideload it into the tool so that you can actually see your tool in the full list of Windows Admin Center and debug it with the rest of the tools that are in there. So this is going to finish up in just a second, and we are going to go ahead and pop over to Edge and check out what we just wrote. All right. So here's the view of Windows Admin Center. We got our full tool list off to the left. And because I just sideloaded this extension, I'm going to go ahead and hit refresh on this. And when this comes back, it's going to go through and it's indexing all of the extensions that it has already built in or plugged into it. But it also finds that I have sideloaded my extension on port 4200 and loads it into my tool list here. A quick click here, and then it's going to start up. And this is the UI that we just built. Right now, it's actually querying that or executing that get containers list and returning back and listing everything that came back there. As you can kind of see, I've run the hello world. I really like that one a couple of times. And I can select it now and click the start. And what this is going to do is it's going to take that image name from this in the TypeScript, pass it down through the service, and then execute the PowerShell, wait for the response, and come back. I didn't quite build an auto refresh in here, so we refresh the page to see the data change. But when that comes back, what you're going to see is that the table list is full and populated, and that we have my new entry for the image that I started up there. In a second. I had a couple other things to say that I forgot there, but that's all right. All right. Spinning up. My table's loading. It's querying that container list again. And as you can see, that top one there, the hello world, exited 30 seconds ago. So we had spun up a new container. In the time that it took me to reload the page, it had already exited. But that's all it takes to build an extension for Windows Management Center. So I'm going to pass it off back to Daniel.
All right, thank you, Matt. Thank you. So once you've developed and your extension is ready to release, how do you actually get it out to your customers, right? Microsoft hosts a NuGet feed as a repository for packages. So you package up your extension as a NuGet package, submit it to Microsoft, and then we'll do a quick review just to make sure that everything is set. And then we'll publish it to the NuGet feed for you. Once it's on the NuGet feed, all the Windows Admin Center users are connected to the feed. So you go to Settings, Manage Extensions, and you can see that we have 6 extensions already available for you to download and start using today. If I click on the Data on Must extension, which I'll show you and talk about a little more, you can click Install. We'll make sure that you have admin privilege to actually download and install the extension. It'll install in the background in a couple of seconds. The UI will refresh, and the extension is actually installed and running in Windows Admin Center. So for the past few months, we've been working really closely with a few partners on building extensions for their products and services. And I'd like to share some of the integration scenarios that we've built with them. The first one is the Fujitsu Server View Health and RAID extension. If you have Fujitsu server running in your data center, and you have the Fujitsu extension loaded, then we'll automatically detect that it's the Fujitsu server, and then these tools will automatically show up. You can see that there are, they've built the health state components tree showing you the health of each of the server components. And then if you drill into the tree, you can see processor, memory, fans, and get in-depth information on all these different components. You can see that they've used the native Windows Admin Center grid control and tree control, so the look and feel is very similar to the rest of the Windows Admin Center UI. One of our other partners, Dataon, is an industry leader in hyperconverged infrastructure running Windows Server, and they had their own Must UI that was built in the web UI, and we were able to integrate their UI as an iframe into Windows Admin Center. So you can see they're doing some amazing work, like with physical disk mapping, and they can show which disks are failing and need to be replaced. Something that Microsoft and our team would never be able to build, right? And finally, Squared Up is a company that's developing visualizations for server topology and historical performance mapping. So you can see when you're connected to a server and you launch the Squared Up extension, you can see that which servers this server is connected to, and if I turn this server down, or if this server is not performing well, which services and other servers can be impacted by that. They also have performance historical chart view. So Windows Admin Center, our tools are connect in real time to show real-time data, but they have a historical database to show performance data for the past month or year, right? So, as I mentioned earlier, our vision for the Windows Admin Center ecosystem is being able to bring hardware, operating system, application services, and monitoring, management, troubleshooting all together. And you can see the work that we've done with our partners is starting to enable that. So we hope that you'll be interested and join the ecosystem for building Windows Server and Windows Admin Center extensions. So again, just a few links. Windows Admin Center is available for download today. So go to aka.ms, Windows Admin Center. There's a lot of documentation. We didn't go through a lot of details. You can see a lot about what Windows Admin Center is and how you can deploy it. And then again, aka.ms/wac-sdk. The SDK is available on GitHub, and the example that Matt just ran through today is all available for you to download and take a look as well. We're releasing updates to our product and the SDK on every month or two, so we rely very heavily on your feedback. Go to User Voice to send us feedback on the product itself, and GitHub for feedback on the SDK. Thank you.